everyone. One of the things we want to host here on the channel are a series of bios about our happy heroes and villains infesting Keith's version of the Marvel Universe, and to that end we wanted to provide something in the way of a who's who and explanation as to the rich mainstream histories of some of these characters, as well as the significance of the character in the tabletop. To begin with, we start with the most humble hero in all of Latveria, Boris. Now, Boris is not an original creation of my own. Boris was introduced back during the Lee Kirby run of the FF. I believe it was in the seminal Secret World of Dr. Doom annual story that established that long-feared and beautiful misunderstood hero slash villain, Dr. Doom, has one place in the world where he is not known as the boy king of all supervillains, but in fact a hero and a generous spirit of leader, and that is his homeland of Latveria, establishing even then that Doom had a sworn and honored friend, not a manservant, but an advisor and attendant who has stood with him through thick and thin. Identified simply as Boris, a character who has connections to Doom's past as a son of an outcast gypsy witch. Now, Boris has usually been shown to be a quiet and retiring man who never comes close to earning the enmity of Doom or his wrath. Faithful and honorable to the last, never questioning Doom, and nor does Doom make any great demands of him. It's what I've always thought was one of the more interesting things about the relationship. He's not yelling for Boris to throw any switches or hit any buttons. It's enough that Boris is there, and Doom holds an abiding affection for him. Back during Byrne's seminal run in the Fantastic Four, one of the very effective sequences is when we see as Doom is liberating Doomstadt from the usurper Zorba. He finds Boris tattered and at the verge of death in the dungeons, and he speaks kind words, and Boris never gave up hope that the Master would come for him. Boris appeared pretty infrequently after that, and when he is next shown to any great detail, it is during Tom DeFalco's run as writer of the FF, which lasted right up into the time of the Heroes Reborn debacle and the great Onslaught era. And it is during this time that it was right after Doom and Richards had apparently perished following their battle with the demon Hunger, one of the many storylines from the 90s. The heroes, the remaining members of the FF, as well as their attendant, who was brought aboard as an advisor to run Reed's machineries, Scott Lang, the second Ant-Man, were able to trace what they believed was a trail that would lead to Doom and Richards, whom they were hopeful had become displaced in time and not slain. They found a secreted tomb of sorts in which they found not Doom or Richards, but instead Boris and Christoph, the adopted son of Dr. Doom. Christoph, during a time when Doom was dead, he transferred his mind out of his body before being killed in battle with the Silver Surfer and Terex. Boris acted a little odd, and by the end of that run, it is revealed that it isn't Boris after all. It is another villain, Zarko, the Tomorrow Man, first seen during the Journey into Mystery run that gave us Thor, and he is the pawn of a larger villain. So those were perhaps the largest story beats you will ever associate with our friend Boris. So knowing that this party was going to be spending at least its first adventures within this alternate version of Latveria, Boris seemed like a perfect ally to bring into the game to serve as a guide and a manservant. But I also very much enjoyed that idea of Boris being more than what he seems. So, right from the get-go, we have a Boris who, while he's very knowledgeable and moved by a very real affection for the idea of the world that should be, a world where Doom rules Latveria, that there are gaps in the things that he's saying, and that at all times there's more information that he should be giving. During each of the episodes leading up to the eventual revelations about Boris that we'll go into right now, you will see that there are lots of inconsistencies as to what he says. The biggest clue to the fact that Boris was not who he said he was he would often give wrong names to towns and areas that the players were traveling in. The town of Frailty he referred to by 4 different names. I always find that this is a cool, subtle clue to throw at people, and it also shows how closely people are listening to the narrative of the run. The body, obviously, I wanted him to look like a fella who was in all-weather clothes, who could survive in the chilly Balkans. So you want to make sure he looks good and thermal. So what could be more thermal than the leggings of a rebellion soldier on the planet Hoth? We followed that up with a nice Gore-Tex jacket taken from a variety of different minifigs wear that jacket, but the one I took it from was one of the children playing at last year's toy shop released at Christmas time. The hat is taken from one of the Lego movie miniatures, one of the robots. You'll forgive me, super fans, that I do not recall the little name they gave them. And the face, if memory serves, yes, is a Ben Kenobi face.